For the first time in a decade, Philadelphia watched a game where the thing that used to define them, domination at the line of scrimmage, got flipped upside down. On Black Friday, the Eagles managed just 27 rushing yards in the first half while yielding 142. That's not a bad day. That's a historical warning light blinking bright and loud. From the jump, Chicago played with the kind of physical clarity that made the difference. They mixed horizontal motion to stretch the Eagles' sideline and then hit downhill runs with two backs who complemented each other perfectly, one with suddenness, one with power. D'Andre Swift was cutting through creases like a heat-seeking missile. Kyle Monangai was the kind of grinder who makes linebackers pay for a missed angle. Together, they turned what should have been Philly's strength into its Achilles heel. And it wasn't just that the Bears ran at them. It was how predictable the Eagles looked, trying to stop it. The line fits were late, leverage was lost at the point of attack, and tackles in space didn't finish. You could almost map it. A crease opens, a back hits it, and the play keeps moving. On tape, it looked less like bad luck and more like schematic exposure. Against an opponent that was willing to run the same play over and over with variation, the Eagles didn't have a counter ready that worked. There's another piece people keep missing. Caleb Williams didn't need to throw a perfect game. He missed a few open targets early on, sure, but the Bears didn't need fireworks. The run game made it so their offense only needed to be efficient, not perfect. That's the mark of a well-built team. They set the terms and let the matchup be decided in the trenches. For Philly, the damage was concrete and immediate. When you can't move the chains on the ground, play action evaporates. Receivers aren't getting the splits they need to win one-on-one, and your quarterback is left with fewer clean windows and more pressure. Jalen Hurts' mobility is a weapon only when it complements a functioning run game. When defenders aren't worried about getting shoved off the line, they can crowd the box and dare you to throw. And that's exactly what the Bears invited the Eagles to do. So what does the Eagles staff do next? First, this can't be a shrug. A cold day and wind are easy explanations for missed throws, but they don't explain 27 rushing yards in a half. You fix this by returning to fundamentals and by adjusting schematically. On the fundamentals side, gap integrity has to be non-negotiable. Tackles need to wrap, linebackers need to finish their reads, and safeties must become active run supporters instead of passive observers. Too many times this season, the Eagles have given up yards after first contact, and that's a technique problem you can actually coach out. Schematically, a handful of immediate moves would blunt what Chicago did. Use motion to create angles that force defenders to show their intentions pre-snap. That should make it harder to cheat the box. Sprinkle in counters and misdirection. If the Bears are cheating downhill to stop simple ISO looks, make them pay by flipping the field with stretch runs or quick tosses. Don't let the defense load the box without answering with pace and spacing. And for the love of sanity, protect Hurts by prioritizing quicker reads and schematic checkdowns when the front four stunts or squeezes. There's also a personnel wrinkle. Saquon Barkley is built to break lines, but he needs clear lanes to pop. If the line is getting pushed backwards at the snap, taper Barkley's assignments into more zone concepts where he can find space instead of fighting a closed hole. If that means adjusting rotation and giving more snaps to backs who excel in traffic, do it. Sometimes game planning is less about identity and more about getting the best players the best opportunities to succeed. Now let's be honest about the cost of doing nothing. Other teams aren't going to stop trying what worked for Chicago. If coaches around the league watch tape and realize this is reproducible, the Eagles will begin to see it a lot. That's not a hypothetical. It's a predictive reality. Opposing coordinators love dial-a-play templates. Find one that works, rinse, repeat. The longer Philly's defensive gaps are visible on film, the more teams will bank on running them into oblivion. There's a psychological side to all of this, too. Fans and players both feel seasons turn on moments. And when the trenches start losing, belief frays. That doesn't build late-season toughness. It erodes it. The only cure for that is results, earned day after day in the practice bubble. And results require urgency without panic. Fix the posture at the line, hammer tackle technique until it's automatic, and force opponents to adjust to you rather than the other way around. But don't overreact. One ugly half doesn't erase the core of what this roster is. The Eagles still have elite talent at the skill positions and a coaching staff with good instincts. This loss matters because it revealed a structural vulnerability that has to be addressed before it becomes a trend. Address it now, and you've got time to course correct. Ignore it, and you're handing opponents a playbook. Here's what I'd watch in the next two games. Are they getting Barkley into space more? Are linebackers closing on contact faster? Is the coaching staff mixing in enough counters to punish over-aggressive boxes? And most importantly, does the offense stop shrinking when the defense tightens? If the answers are no, we're not talking about a bad day. We're talking about the beginning of a narrative that looks a lot like last year's unraveling. If the answers are yes, the Eagles have a chance to quiet the noise and reassert control. The takeaway is simple and a little brutal. Great teams don't just win with talent, they adjust when the film shows problems. Chicago exposed the Eagles on Friday, and the clock is now ticking. The real test isn't whether Philadelphia noticed the weakness, it's whether they fix it before someone else makes it the blueprint for beating them. Frustrations among fans boiled over on Friday evening as the Philadelphia Eagles floundered in prime time against the Chicago Bears. While the Eagles struggled to find any sort of success on offense, the Bears were able to overpower them throughout the first half. There was no more telling example than the disparity between the two rushing attacks. The Eagles totaled just 27 yards on the ground in the first half, while they allowed 142. Ben Johnson's offense may have only put up 10 points in the first half of the NFL's Black Friday game, but they were rolling on the ground. The dynamic running back duo of D'Andre Swift, a former Eagles flameout, and seventh-round pick Kyle Monangai was seemingly unstoppable. Swift nearly 100 yards by halftime, breaking off a few explosive runs in the process. Meanwhile, Monangai handled the short yardage work, consistently picking up extra ground after contact. The Bears used a simple formula to pick Vic Fangio's defense apart. They alternated between horizontal runs off motion looks with their receivers and downhill carries with their running backs. Despite the elite talent on Philadelphia's defensive front, the Eagles were helpless against the Bears' attack for most of the game. Chicago quarterback Caleb Williams was unable to get anything going early, missing multiple open receivers in key moments. If he had hit just a couple of those passes, the halftime score could have quickly become much more lopsided than it was. On the other hand, the Eagles' offense was stagnant yet again. Barkley found no room behind Philadelphia's beat-up offensive line, and Jalen Hurts was a non-factor in the rushing attack. The Bears took what was supposed to be the Eagles' strength and used it against them. The Bears' inability to finish drives allowed the Eagles to get back into the game in the second half. But this is an issue that can't be ignored. The Eagles have been able to lean on their defense throughout this season to carry them to a competitive record. If other offenses can replicate the formula that the Bears just put on display, this could quickly turn into a season-defining problem for Philly.